from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
A pleasant day and a warm welcome to the news live on Rupavahini ChannelEye. We are ready to bring you the top stories here at home and around the world. I am Charita Vinuparachi.
And I'm Kasani Balachandra. Here are your top stories for tonight.
A Gazette notification was issued fixing the 25th of April as the new election date. Sri Lanka rupee depreciates. Price of gold also fluctuates. Despite the trade union action, university lecturers work for money. Red light for the vehicles with high emission. 8 people were killed in a shooting in Germany.
And we move on to those and other stories in detail. And in your top local story tonight, a special Gazette notification has been issued fixing the date for the local government polls on the 25th of April.
This has been done under the guidance of the Elections Commission pursuant to the Section 262 of this Elections Ordinance. According to the guidance of the Elections Commission, each returning officer has fixed the date of local government polls on the 25th of April by the Gazette notification. According to the court order pertaining to this, the Elections Commission said an agreement was made following a discussion with the relevant stakeholders. Accordingly, the government printer has informed the postal ballot papers can be printed and handed over within 5 days and rest of ballot papers within a period of 20 to 25 days. The police has also informed that required security can be provided for the printing of ballot papers. Elections Commission Samansri Ratnayaka says that the decision pertaining to the issue of fuel for the polls will be taken within the next few days. The Elections Commission has recommended that it is appropriate to pay only the salaries of the public officials during the period of delay of the polls. The announcement issued by the Elections Commission also states that the Secretary to the Ministry of Public Administration and Local Government has been informed to obtain the relevant approval by the Cabinet. And meanwhile, the buying rate of the US dollar was reported as 300 rupees and 62 cents today.
Due to the depreciation of the US dollar, the price of gold also fluctuated. This is the lowest price of gold recorded in Sri Lanka for a period of 1 year. The buying rate of the US dollar yesterday was at 307 rupees and 36 cents. It has increased up to 311 rupees and 62 cents today. Selling rate of the US dollar was 325 rupees and 52 cents yesterday, and today it is at 328 rupees and 90 cents. The National Gem and Jewellery Authority says the value of gold was at a minimum level yesterday in the country. Accordingly, price of a gold sovereign has decreased by 40,000 rupees in the C Street, Colombo. A sovereign of 22 carat was at 134,000 rupees and 24 carat sovereign was at 145,000 rupees at the Colombo Gold Market yesterday. However, today the prices have increased. Accordingly, a 24 carat sovereign is valued at 160,000 rupees, while a 22 carat sovereign was at 148,500 rupees. Steve Hank, professor of applied economics at Johns Hopkins University, in an interview with CNBC says there's temporary relief for Sri Lanka but tremendous recidivism in the long run.
Professor Hankey said Sri Lanka needs institutional reforms in order to achieve long-term debt sustainability. Professor Steve Hankey played a key role in establishing new currency regimes in emerging markets like Argentina and Montenegro.
Fundamentally, in the long-term perspective, nothing has really changed. You have to remember that we have a country that since 1965 has had 16 IMF programs, and they've all failed. They give some temporary relief, so in anticipation of the IMF bailout, if you want to call it that, the $2.9 billion, the rupee has actually appreciated about 12.5% since last Thursday, and also the inflation rate as a result, as I measure it every day, has fallen to about 31% per annum. The official measure was 53.2% for January. So you get some temporary relief in anticipation of a bailout. But in the long run, you've got tremendous recidivism because none of these programs, these IMF programs, work. I've recently just completed a study of the IMF programs, and the countries that don't come to an agreement end up in better shape than those that have an agreement. When I say better shape, their unemployment situation is better, their real economic growth is better, their export growth is better, and their government debt to GDP is better. The only thing that appears to be a little better in this study with the IMF programs is inflation is controlled a little bit more rapidly than it would have otherwise been the case. So in general, I think the situation is nothing has really changed. As far as China, of course, had no choice. What was China to do? Try to squeeze a dry lemon? I mean, everybody knew they were going to come to some agreement of some kind. Yes. We don't know the details yet, but
Steve,
I think the solution is to go back to what they had in Ceylon from 1884 to 1950, and that's a currency board system that once and for all would fix the exchange rate to an anchor currency like the U.S. dollar. It would trade at a fixed exchange rate for the U.S. dollar. It would be backed 100% with U.S. dollar reserves, and the Sri Lankan currency would become a clone of the U.S. dollar, and that the whole thing would be fixed once and for all.
State Minister of Finance Shahan Semasinga says the Speaker has agreed to an inquiry into the violation of parliamentary privileges due to the interim order issued by the Supreme Court pertaining to the local government elections.
As you are aware, Honorable Premnath Dolawatta raised a question of privilege in this Parliament regarding the interim order referred to the case number SC/FR/69/2023. The letter bearing number F/03/2023 dated 8 March 2023 submitted by the Chairman of the Elections Commission on the same subject to the Honorable Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilization and National Policy has further breached the privileges of the honourable members of this House. In the condition, Honourable Speaker has accepted the question of breach of privileges raised by Honourable Premnath Dolawatta and presented it to the Committee on Parliamentary Ethics and Privileges. It is a serious offence to implement the interim order of the aforesaid case before hearing the said matter and making a decision. By tabling the letter of the Chairman of the Elections Commission, I request the Honourable Deputy Speaker to refer the same matter to the Committee of Parliamentary Ethics and Privileges to conduct an inquiry. Further, by raising this privilege matter, I request the Honourable Deputy Speaker to advise all relevant authorities not to proceed further or take any action on the above said matter until the Privileges Committee concludes its inquiry.
Protest campaigns have been organized in several places in the island against the high cost of living, increase of taxes and electricity bills, and several other matters yesterday as well. A protest was staged in front of the Sri Jayawardhanapura University expressing displeasure against the security forces forcefully entering the Colombo University premises recently. National People's Power staged a fire torch protest yesterday evening at the Navalapitiya town. A street drama was also played in protest of the power tariff hike. Another protest was also organized by the National People's Power in Koskama town yesterday against the increased taxes and other issues. Meanwhile, Chairman of the Public Utilities Commission, Janaka Ratnayaka, filed a fundamental rights petition at the Supreme Court against the decision taken to revise electricity charges. The petitioner says that the decision taken by the CEB to increase electricity bills has led to the violation of human rights. He also points out that huge injustice has occurred to the electricity consumers who use less amount of electricity.
Department of Motor Traffic has made a request to the general public to inform the department regarding the vehicles those who emit excessive amounts of exhaust. Commissioner General of Motor Traffic Nishant Anuradhavir Singh says that public have already complained regarding such vehicles belonging to the CTB, the government institutions and police as well. Although there are about 8 million registered vehicles in the country, only 6 million are in running condition. Out of this amount, about 5.5 million vehicles have been included in the gas emission test. The Department of Motor Traffic points out that due to the gas emission test process, index of harmful gases in the environment is at lower rate despite the number of vehicles running on roads are high. However, there is a problem on properly updating the process of existing vehicles' gas emission tests. Commissioner General of Motor Traffic Nishant Anuradhavir Singh said that according to a test conducted for the private buses at the Bastion Avenue in Petau the last 2 days of February, it was revealed that over 40% of the buses were not up to the required emission level. Therefore, the relevant vehicle owners have provided with a period of 14 days to get their vehicles properly tuned from our headquarters in Verahara. If they are unable to get those done, these revenue licenses will be blacklisted. The vehicle gas emission test is conducted not to check the amount of emission or the color of the gases, but to check up the content of the exhaust and whether the vehicle emits harmful particles. Meanwhile, a vehicle belonging to a licensed private company that is responsible for conducting gas emission tests in Nuwara Elia district was captured by a mobile camera running along the roads, emitting huge amount of black fumes.
Minister Ramesh Pathirana has instructed the officials yesterday to start a national program to cultivate king coconut targeting the Dubai and European export markets. The minister gave this instruction at a discussion held in evaluating the journalist who won the most outstanding award of the year for the coconut-related industry. Gamini Bandara Manikdewala of Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation has won the Best Journalist of the Year award at the Eminence Excellence Awarding Ceremony held in the UAE recently. This event was organized to felicitate him. It is stressed that king coconut juice is an inherent drink in Sri Lanka and it should be popularized in the international market.
The government of Japan has contributed an additional $6.6 million to the United Nations World Food Programme to provide critical food and nutrition assistance to over 1 million Sri Lankans. Through this funding, World Food Programme will provide families with food baskets comprising rice, pulses and cooking oil to meet half their monthly food needs for a period of 2 months. The donation will also be used to produce maize and soybean for the production of triposha for a period of 4 months, which will be supplied to pregnant and breastfeeding mothers and young children at a risk of malnutrition. Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, Misakoshi Hideki, said Japan is pleased to announce that the government of Japan has decided to provide additional humanitarian support to Sri Lanka in this critical moment. Food aid through the World Food Programme by the government of Japan has reached a total of $10 million since the economic crisis began last year. The support is being used to provide essential food and nutrition to communities across the nation. Japan has been long-standing donor to the government of Sri Lanka and World Food Programme for over a decade, providing critical assistance in emergencies while supporting long-term recovery and development efforts to strengthen food and nutrition security in the country. Japan's latest funding is an extension of its support to the people of Sri Lanka to help safeguard communities affected by the economic crisis. World Food Programme has reached over 2 million people since commencing its emergency operations in June last year and is moving closer to its target of reaching 3.4 million people with food and nutrition assistance.
The Chinese government has granted the entire amount of free school uniform materials for this year as it has pledged earlier. The Chinese government has agreed to provide 70% of the need of the uniform materials to Sri Lanka. Out of the amount, 1/3 of portion was granted in the first stage. The rest of the amount was fully granted to Minister of Education Susil Premajanta at his ministry today by the Chinese ambassador Qi Shenggong. The minister says accordingly the government hopes to expedite distribution of free school uniforms and complete before the beginning of the next school term.
University lecturers have decided to be away from the university academic activities and the evaluation of advanced level answer scripts. However, it is reported that these lecturers have conducted some academic activities on payment basis. These were expressed in Parliament as well in this connection.
Parliamentarian Buddhika Pathirana said that University Lecturers Association and the Medical Faculty Lecturers Association have started a continuous strike since yesterday. Academic activities of degree programs and postgraduate programs have been postponed indefinitely. Parliamentarian Samanpriya Herad said that although the doctors strike their duties, they have not stopped doing private practice. They earn a huge income through this practice. Members of the University Lecturers Association have not stopped their activities as well. They usually charge a sum of 4,000 to 6,000 rupees per hour to conduct lectures. Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri addressed the 19th Ministers' meeting of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation held in virtual mode yesterday.
Addressing the meeting, Minister Ali Sabri stated that as the trajectory of global economic and growth shift towards the Asia, the trade and investment component of the BIMSTEC countries needs to be revitalized to stay relevant. He further opened the need to strengthen the collaborative efforts to enhance inter-regional trading, focusing on each country's comparative advantages, emphasizing that BIMSTEC should take the lead in becoming conduct to build a robust and dynamic private sector network to enhance the flow of trade and investment. In this context, the minister reiterated Sri Lanka's commitment to working proactively in areas of trade and investment and extended Sri Lanka's fullest support to build a transitional network of business entities which would inter-regional investments to create a transformative economic growth for all. The meeting deliberated important agendas, items such as the BIMSTEC Bangkok Vision 2030, the agreement of maritime transport connectivity and the establishment of a group of eminent persons of the BIMSTEC, among many others.
The Indian High Commission in Sri Lanka said that a consignment of textbooks printed with the support of India at the State Printing Corporation was formally dispatched yesterday. The Indian High Commission said in a statement that the textbooks were formally dispatched by Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle and Sri Lanka's Minister of Education Dr. Susil Premajanta, while State Minister of Education Aravind Kumar was also present at this occasion. Due to combined effects of recent steep appreciation of the rupee and upturn in market performances, the Colombo Stock Exchange has become the second best performing stock exchange in the world, just behind Laos, according to Bloomberg.
In terms of US dollar, the return of year to date to the CSE has been ranked as the second best performing stock exchange with a US dollar return of 30%, just behind Laos. Since last week, rupee started to appreciate against the US dollar and became the world's best performing currency so far this year amid a temporary mismatch in the US dollar demand supply. Meanwhile, CSE was up by 14% so far during the year, becoming one of the top 20 best performing stock exchanges in the world in terms of local currency returns. The Asia Pacific region, the CSE was the fourth best performing stock exchange in terms of the local currency returns.
Steps will be taken to provide about 36,000 new connections that have been delayed due to the financial crisis in the Ceylon Electricity Board within a period of 6 weeks. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Vijayasekara said yesterday at the Ministerial Consultative Committee held in Parliament. The minister pointed out that due to the existing financial issues, there was a shortage of equipment to provide new connections, and that with the recent steps to increase the electricity tariffs, the strengthening of the financial sector of the board would enable new connections to be provided. The minister said that this when the members of parliament raised issues in the committee that despite a large number of people have registered to get new connections, there's a big delay in issuing connections. Also, the minister said that a program to minimize the cost of the institutions under the ministry, including the Ceylon Electricity Board and the Petroleum Corporation, is currently underway.
Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment says that Italy has made preparations to accept applications for jobs offered in non-European countries from the March 27th. The Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment said in a statement that the Sri Lanka's embassy in Italy has officially informed this in regard to the Bureau. Accordingly, the jobs are offered under the three categories of seasonal workers, non-seasonal workers and self-employed workers. The Bureau further stated that suitable candidates can apply for the jobs which include the transportation and logistic, construction, tourism and hospitality and agricultural sectors. Italy is offering more than 82,700 employment opportunities to non-European countries including Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, India, Japan and South Korea.
The 38th session of the Board of Directors of the India-Sri Lanka Foundation was held in Bentota recently. The session was co-chaired by High Commissioner of India in Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, and High Commissioner of Sri Lanka in India, Milinda Moragoda. Board members of the foundation, Ambassador Gopalaswamy Parthasarthi and Ambassador Bernard Gunathilaka were also present. India-Sri Lanka Foundation was established on the 28th of December 1998 by a Memorandum of Understanding signed between the governments of India and Sri Lanka. It was established with the objective of fostering Indo-Sri Lanka relations through the enhancement of economic, scientific, educational, technical and cultural cooperation and the promotion of greater understanding between the peoples of the two countries. The foundation has supported more than 580 projects till date. The projects implemented so far with support of the foundation complement the initiatives by the governments of the two countries in strengthening the bilateral relationship and people-to-people ties.
And the Pakistan High Commission has donated dry rations package to the community kitchen at the Gangarama Vihare. Accordingly, the Pakistan High Commission in Sri Lanka has donated close to 50 dry ration packets to the Gangarama temple. Chief incumbent of the Gangarama Vihare, Venerable Kirinde Assajitheru, received the donation handed over by the Pakistan ambassador.
It's yours. Thank you very much. मैं आपे community kitchen के तो मैं पूरी करा। Thank you.
Baby Shamal, who hopes to live another day, requires your help at this critical juncture. Baby Shamal was a healthy baby a few months ago. He continued to grow without any issue until 8 months. Even though he managed to sit independently until then, there was no growth thereafter. Last November, the doctors verified that baby Shamal was diagnosed with type 2 spinal muscular atrophy, which is a rare neuromuscular condition. It leads to progressive muscular weakness and affects the ability to independently sit, crawl, stand, walk, swallow and even breathe. Shamal's hope to live a normal life relies on a one-time gene therapy which costs around 700 million rupees. The parents of baby Shamal have already collected around 350 million rupees and left with less than 30 days to find the rest of the money to save his life. Therefore, your help, despite being small or large, will be a pillar of strength for baby Shamal to live another day. Foreign news on the other side of this break.
Prima Kutumi, Fantamai.
Welcome back with international news. And a number of people have been killed in a shooting at Jehovah's Witness meeting hall in the northern Germany city of Hamburg. Police say the gunman acted alone and is thought to be dead. It's unclear if the attacker is among the 6 or 7 fatalities reported by German media. A number of people were also injured in the shooting on Dielborg Street in city's Grosspostal district. Police say they found a dead person at the scene who they believe may have been a perpetrator, and investigations are counting. The police was called around 9:15 to reports that shots have been fired in the building. Police spokesman Holger Verden said. Officials went in and found people that may have been seriously injured. Firearms of the fatally, he said. Reasons behind the shooting were still completely unclear.
Prima Kotomi Fantamai.
Welcome back to the sports update, and today is the second day of the first test between Sri Lanka and the host New Zealand. The Stumps, the New Zealand were 162 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in the first innings.
Telecast by the national television at 10 p.m. today.
The film was directed by Parakrama Nirala, and a number of veteran actors including Malini Fonseca, Ravindra Randenia, Anuja Veerasinghe and Lucky Dance have contributed in acting. And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Do it tomorrow at the very same time. I'm Charita, signing off with Kasani. Stay safe. Good night.
Good night.